If I'm looking at somebody who has those other addictive personality traits,
most organs are dependent on mitochondria, kidney very much so.
I think it's changing the idea. It's a catalyst, not the solution. So much of younger people's generation is just like, I don't want to do anything.
It's not a weight loss drug. It is trying to make me metabolically healthy.
all the high achieving Indian clients I have to drink, especially if they're from Punjab.
Depending on how advanced you are using these products, don't start doing that if you're not advanced.
The 25-year-olds, 27-year-olds are drinking incessantly on the weekends, right?
You just have to find some independence. Like, do you want to be a follower or do you want to be a leader? I have a lot of clients in India, actually, and they all the high achieving Indian clients I have to drink, especially if they're from Punjab. I have a lot of clients in India, actually, and they all the high achieving Indian clients I have to drink, especially if they're from Punjab. They have to drink in a social setting. And a lot of the time I will try to find out what their lifestyle is, what their background is. Like, do they have kids? Okay, I can use that as a crutch. Use that as the accountability. Do you want to be there for your kids in the future? Even though this is just a couple of drinks, are you wanting to heal your future or possibly harm it? I'll try to always attack it from a psychological aspect. Maybe you go out, have a drink, and you got some sparkling water, you put some electrolytes in it, so it kind of looks like a drink, but it actually isn't. But of course, a lot of this will fall on deaf ears. But I'm quite a hard ass. So it's like, if you don't do it, you go and train with someone else. Okay. So I am pretty tough like that. And it's just maybe for a short period, just so we go through this boot camp, so we can create those neural pathways and neurogenesis for new habits for the future. But yeah, if I'm looking at somebody who has those other addictive personality traits, whether it be smoking, whether it be drinking, it's usually a GL. You probably hate me for this, GLP-3 or retatrutide. That's what I'll usually lean towards, because that seems to shut out a lot of the food noise. Some people have actually had a little bit, some clients, very, very few. But some of the clients have had like tesofensin or something like that, and that just kind of shuts off that food noise, but not as powerful as like a retatrutide in a micro dose, because sometimes that person doesn't necessarily need to lose a lot of weight, but they need to lose a habit. So that's where the microdose of that perspective would usually come into play.
So my advice is, don't use creatinine as your marker for kidney function. Measure GFR, what we order on all our beef shelves. We have a lot of muscular people, or people who are eating high protein diets, or people who are taking high dose creatine. Your creatinine is always going to be skewed, and that's not a real GFR. So have your doctor measure a Cystatin-C instead, and calculate your GFR off of Cystatin-C instead of off of a creatinine number. Because instead of stopping your creatine, which has so many benefits for you, just use a real number. Cystatin-C is a much better measure of kidney function. So my advice on that. Kidney function is a horror. It is difficult. So the bioregulators actually may be helpful for kidney function. There's a drug called penicillin polysulfate used as a low-dose injectable. We use it for arthritis as well, but it has actually really good documented evidence in helping kidney function as well. Hard to get compounded, but it's a pretty remarkable drug for helping kidney function too. But kidneys, you could stabilize them pretty easily. Trying to improve the function can be a little bit more difficult. I do think I don't know if you've seen it, but some of the bioregulators have relatively effective therapy. I mean, actually, GLP-1s are helpful too, or GLP.
HGF-304.
HGF-304 is going to be great. It's amoebas make it. It's not usually widely available to everybody yet, but it's more on the peptide pharmacies are making it. OS01 peptide, that's going to be helpful as well. C, any of the mitochondrial peptides help kidney function. Most organs are dependent on mitochondria, kidney very much so you can repair mitochondria. So SS31 can also be helpful there.
I'll just add, there is literature that around SS31. They've used it in CKD patients, and it's proven hasn't killed it. But I've also heard people anecdotally say to me, because I've talked about that before, and they're like, yeah, I didn't believe you, and I took it, and it like doubled my GFR. So I think, like Elizabeth was just saying, the mitochondrial peptides indirectly, because of what they're doing to improve overall health, will help it. So like, if you wanted like an affordable things, like pretty easy to access and afford, I would feed that way first. Yeah, because I know the Clodo is coming. It'll be expensive, but right now.
So I've got a lot of
transplant patients, especially kidneys. Is there any special considerations for those who didn't use peptides?
Special considerations.
They're always super concerned,
Yeah. I have a lot of kidney transplant patients, actually.
and they're all the and SS31 cyanopeps. Okay. The other thing I want a clarification on is if you're already having a peptide regimen and you're microdosing a GLP-1 and you're microdosing like a glow or some kind of stack like that, and you want to add other things, that's okay. Like you just have to be aware, like what you said before. You can step through more on HOF, etc., but just be reasonable.
I think the answer is perhaps, yes, potentially. Again, it's the end user, right? An experienced peptide user who is doing everything correctly and obviously doing all the things that, Eric stressed yesterday, the foundational stuff, 100%. But again, for a newbie, for somebody who isn't experienced, jumping around when they don't really understand what is doing what, that's kind of I would say that's a non sequitur issue in the.
I have questions circling back to just the very beginning, the GLP. So I'm kind of part of the demographic that has a lot of hate towards Ozempic and just sorry, what did you say?
Well, what was those?
A lot of hate towards Ozempic. Yeah. Yes. And it kind of being this online easy way out. And so I guess my question is, how would you, if you were in my shoes as a part of that younger demographic, start to try and change that narrative? If you wanted to try and take a stab at that.
I have a good answer. I think part of that, you're absolutely right about like the easy button mentality, because like you said, we were talking about this beginning. It's like hit the easy button. I'm good. I can still drink, eat whatever I want, and be good. I think it's changing the idea that they're not weight loss medications, and I know that's the intended result and like the intended effect, right? But if we look at the context of like metabolic health equals longevity and well-being, that's what they are. And think of them, if there was a way, like I could wave a magic wand and change the narrative, it's a catalyst, not the solution. And it's a catalyst that kickstarts someone to like lose weight, to then eat healthier, to then their brain's clearer so they can make better choices. And then it's like, if you have two doors and it's like the non-GLP-1 door, the GLP-1 door, and you choose the GLP-1 door, and it's not the GLP-1, it's the pathway that it leads down. So if I could say like wave a magic wand, change the narrative, especially for younger people that want to push back against like the easy button, because like so much of younger people's generation is just like, I don't want to do anything. I want like AI to do all my work for me, and I don't want to, like, don't want to have anything to do with that. It's like, you could say about the same thing about AI. It's like, use it as a tool, a catalyst to get where you want to go and make that journey better, rather than it's like, I get to, like screw off and do whatever I want because I just took this shot.
Yeah, I think also changing it, instead of saying this is a weight loss drug, saying that this is a metabolic optimizing drug, right? It's not a weight loss drug. It is trying to make me metabolically healthy. So changing that narrative. This is a question. There's in that age group population, Chris, for you, I think they're a much harder group for the alcohol question than there's I was Leah's patients as well, where they drink socially. Sometimes it's easier to get them into the just drink a mocktail, which is all over. That group, no. The 20-year-old, the 25-year-old, 27-year-olds are drinking, incessantly on the weekends, right? It is such a part of the narrative. How do you deal with that?
Good luck. I was one of those. Yeah, coming from the UK, we binge trip, Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because, at that sort of age, you want to be part of the crowd. You want to feel like you belong. You're trying to find your place in the world and your clique. So it's very easy to kind of get encouraged into that sort of circle. You just have to find some independence. Like, do you want to be a follower or do you want to be a leader? I've had some clients in that respect, and it's really, really tough. I've actually had a professional rugby athlete, or a professional rugby player who was talking to me a couple of weeks ago saying, it's really difficult because like on the weekends, the guys kind of drink and I don't really want to, but I feel in order to be part of the team, I have to. Just be the leader of the group. You want to be the team captain, then you're going to have that early night, and kind of lead by example. Is it going to be difficult? Yeah, you're going to have to change some neurons, but it is like the way of the world to a certain degree. Like I transitioned from my mountain bike to an e-bike mountain bike. Wow, you're cheating. I'm like, I'm measuring my heart rate. I'm still getting a good workout. I'm not always putting it on boost. And, you'll see it at this event. Oh, those guys that are on steroids down there because they want the easy way out. Well, they're still working their ass off. They're still counting their macros. They're still being disciplined. But I guess it depends like how far you want to take it and how you feel that it is going to optimize your life in the future. And I always do say to people, that are of the younger demographic, if you look at that drink or that food or whatever situation that is right in front of you right now, that is going to give you that immediate satisfaction, is it really going to heal your future or possibly harm it? Well, if you think it's going to possibly harm it, then you need to kind of reverse that trajectory.
Hey, Chris, you were talking about your cartilage repair for your shoulder. I wish I'd known about that 6 years ago when I had my knee redone. I had the Macy procedure, which was cartilage implantation in my knee. What kind of a protocol would you recommend for people who are like washed up meatheads like myself, or people who have a lot of damaged joint issues that we would like to try to continue to train and train hard, but
Work around from a peptide standpoint or bioregulators?
yeah, I do.
So, I'll let the resident orthopedic here sitting up here answer in a second. But the truth is, there's a lot of studies, there's a lot of research that shows using a microdose of PPC TB500. And again, we cannot leave off cartilage and Sigamir, KPV, the glow, the clothes, do all sorts of incredible things to androgen receptor sensitivity. Again, if you throw an SS31 combined with that, you're going to have the amplification at the cellular cascades and signaling. So there's a lot of stuff to do that. I think there's not enough people in the bodybuilding space using those products in a microdose fashion year round. They're just kind of using them when they're injured. And then that's kind of like a shotgun approach, a PPC, TB500, because that already does that. I mean, in our space, right? But Cartilax, as Chris says, is amazing. Sycamore is amazing. So I would think that most people who are aging, which is the majority of people in this room, should probably start looking at taking those in a microdose fashion year round. So again, if it's 2 cycles of 8 weeks or 3 cycles of 4 weeks or whatever it is, that's kind of how you want to do it, because you're going to get a lot of wear and tear repair.
Cartilage can be repaired. We know that without doing cartilage transplants. We know that that we have the technology and their bodies have the ability. The big thing that we neglect in osteoarthritis is thinking about it like every other age-related disease. It's an inflammatory disease because you look at the joint fluid and arthritic joint has very high level of IL-6, TNF-alpha. These proteases, and they call them metallomatrix proteases, that actually are destroying cartilage. Those are very upregulated in the joint. So trying to throw just repair peptides into an environment or even do stem cells into an environment that's very inflammatory is not going to work. So we oftentimes believe there's something called alpha-2 macroglobulin that's actually a protein that you can put to the joint that negates those. And then really this drug will come to market probably in about 3 years. It's available in Australia. It's called xylosol. It's an injectable penicillin that actually has shown significant improvement in cartilage, 30% improvement in cartilage over a year. I have so many patients with severe, myself included, I have horrible knee arthritis, I had 4 ACL reconstructions. Basically, after being on this drug, now I've been on it for a couple of years, I have no pain. I've not re-MRI'd my knees to know if the cartilage has grown, but it's a remarkable drug with about 80% success rate in improving pain and function and cartilage regeneration. So it's something to keep an eye on. It's a little hard to get right now. We can get it, but you have to find a doctor who knows about it. But it will basically get my drug called xylosol. It's an injectable polysulfate stepping.
Have you seen it was just in the news recently, but I guess there's now some sort of a matrix gel that could be injected into the lower back, and it can actually increase the space between the intervertebrae.
Yeah, so some, and they're just some, yeah, so they're doing some of that with knees as well. There's these matrix gels that, and I would still advocate that the problem is we're still dealing with sometimes an environment and the joint, like you're a super healthy guy, and so you had the right environment probably that you could heal your injury without just something like Cartilax. Most people who have ongoing degeneration, either genetically or because of lifestyle or because of age, actually have very inflammatory environments. So trying to put anything in that's just reparative without addressing the inflammatory environment, and that's actually, I think, the harder thing to do, is addressing the inflammatory environment. So a lot of times, alpha-2 macroglobulin will become a protein that's available that we'll be able to inject in the joints. Right now, you have to filter it out of blood, so we'll use some of a process, but we can, because alpha-2 macroglobulin protein is what your body uses to actually get rid of all these bad proteases and bad cytokines in the joint. There's it will become a product that's going to be much easier to get here in the next few years. But again, that's where I think putting people on this xylitol, this injectable penicillin polysulfate, at least for a period of time before you're trying to repair, is imperative. I think it's a big neglected piece. Osteoarthritis is an inflammatory disease process, and to not treat it as such is why we're not getting success in as much.
Why is xylitol not in my hair now?
It's just going through the FDA process. As of all places, Australia, pizza, it's going through the FDA, of course,
In regards to the bioregulators and the peptides, if someone gets to a point where they're taking a few peptides, whether it's a GLP, SS31, swoop in the morning, a fasted, can you take a couple of big bioregulators at the same time? People have busy schedules. And if I want to go work out and I take Chris's pre-workout supplement, in addition to that, is that all too much on the system? Or should they be taking the isolation bioregulators, peptides?
It's a great question. Can you take while you're already dialed in with the other stuff? Yes, absolutely. And again, as an advanced user, which clearly you are, you kind of already understand what was doing what inside your body, and you understand that. So do you want to add in, something for the eye? Do you want to add in something for the kidney? Do you want to add in something for the heart or something like that? You absolutely can. But again, I stress, and this is very important, that depending on how advanced you are using these products, don't start doing that if you're not an advanced user, because you want to truly understand what is doing what. And that's why you want to start most of the time, depending on your condition, with doing things in isolation. And as Trevor said earlier, and I echoed him, 1, 2, or 3 is probably about as deep as you want to go. And again, address the root cause or the biggest needle moving issue that you have, and then move on to the other thing. And again, I see way too many people taking 8 things at once and then saying, oh, it doesn't work, or I have no idea. I'm holding what, right? There's like so many crazy things that you can do. Just keep it simple, stupid, as Eric loves to say.
I was going to say too, try and think different body parts.
Right.
So like you see people like, yeah, but take CJC, ipamorelin, tesamorelin, like, okay, which one's actually working? So for people, I do the same thing. 3 is always good. So if you weight loss GLP, do something for your brain. Yeah, do something for mitochondria. And then, if you want to be fit, do something for fitness or that's fine, right? Because they're all going to have different improvement centers. Don't try and pack, okay, I want to see what happens with my brain, do Cmax, like oxytocin, P2228, like NED plus, what's your like, I think this is working great. It probably is. Don't get me wrong, I'm much smarter than I was 10 years ago. But, you don't know what's doing what at that point.
It's kind of like a supplement, isn't it? We all know that a lot of supplements have benefits. If you take every supplement on the shelf, you're probably done. So at what point are you looking at this from a logical standpoint? So as Trevor said, it's like they're all different body parts, but with your supplements, you take this supplement as like maybe your intra-workout, your post-workout, the supplements that you take upon waking, that you all usually have different mechanisms. It wouldn't make sense to take 3 pre-workouts, 3 different pre-workouts, like taking all these secretagogues, for instance, because as I mentioned, you just really don't know what is working, what is causing that fluid retention, what has stopped working over a duration of time. So in order to pull back.
All right, nice job. Question? Gotcha.
I guess adding to that, talk about exosomes. So in addition to complementary to everything else that you're doing like exosomes every quarter.
I actually forgot. So somebody else wanted to know that. How you are?
Yeah, so biologics world with exosomes and stem cells, obviously we're not supposed to be doing stem cells. They don't have like a target, so when you put them in your body, you don't know what they're going to do. Doesn't mean they're going to be bad or anything, you just don't know. That's what that's scary for the FDA. Like you with something in your body, we have no idea what's doing inside you. Whereas exosomes are more like a peptide, or they have a target, they're going to do what you kind of program them to do. I do a mix anyway of like 100 billion stem cells, 100 billion exosomes, and if I do some like PRP and stuff like that, and I actually inject it in my head once a quarter. Yeah, my hair was about as short as this a year ago. My hair's probably, when you dread it, bunch it out. But my hair probably grew about 20 inches in the year. I do it this method, so they can work. But
I think it's important just to say, I don't want to interrupt you, even though I did.
Okay.
Hair loss is cured now. I'm not joking. If you have active follicles on your scalp, we can regrow your hair. Now, obviously, you have to have the money, the means, and the know-how, but it's available. Like, do not think that you have to go to Turkey and spend 5, 6, 7, 8 grand to get an hair transplant. You can absolutely regrow your hair.
But yeah, and going on that same method though, they're not going to just stay in my head the whole time. They'll get utilized, and then they'll just filter through the stem cells within your lungs, kind of hang out there until they're to be used. So yeah, just having them in there can show benefit. The only problem with it is they take a long time. So you don't really know if they're working or not for you. And then the other thing is they're based on inflammation receptors. So if you take exosomes with BPC or TV500, they kind of get lost. They don't know what to do. They get confused. So it's not as easy as just like throwing them. They're actually very cheap to make. It's just a big farce. Oh, $10,000 for this. And then also don't believe everything someone comes out. They all got, 4 trillion exosomes. Okay. Like, where do you get them from? How are they harvested? Like, there's so much that goes. It's probably one of the most confusing industries because you just don't know what these people are doing or where they're getting them from.
How much should someone actually pay right now?
If you're going to go do next to treatment, you should probably pay somewhere between, depending on how much, right? So, like, I use like nebulizers for people that are dealing with brain. We'll do treatments are basically maybe $2,000 for 100 billion. So it really isn't that expensive, depending on the quality level. So there's a lot of almost the data is hard on this weapon, and everybody kind of says that theirs works best. But the only real stem cell that I've seen really actively regrow, like, broken down knees and shoulders, is actually when you actually pull it from your own hip bone, and you pull your own actual no, is it bone marrow? Bone marrow, sorry. It was late night last night. This is Vegas, right? But when we take your own bone marrow and you spin the stem cells off of that and then re-inject those, that's where we're seeing the most actual quick rebuilding of like a knee or a shoulder in those cases. So just food for thought.
Is there anything you guys recommend for vision? So like say 45 to 50, we all, had this issue with like reading glasses, that kind of stuff. Anything peptides or etc.?
Yeah, basically all of us that use computers actively, which is like 98% of us in society today, either have now nearsighted or farsighted, right? And that's again because our vision is being compressed in these narrow ranges of looking at screens and sitting in front of computers and stuff like that. There's some amazing bioregulators that improve vision. How you want to talk?
Yeah, there's some oral bioregulators. I think it's called Visolut is the Russian name. Yeah, that works pretty well. I think there's another one. I can't think of the name right now. Peptide was
School chat peptides.
yeah, yeah. There's some Russian ones that I cannot think of the name right now. It's like because it's a Russian name that's like click, like an English word would. But SS31 has actually been shown to, again, like kind of weird. It does all these things. SS31, I think, helps with ocular nerves. A lot of the mitochondrial peptides actually will have vision benefits because it's mitochondria in the eyes. I'm not recommending to do this at home. I have taken BBC and TB500 and reconstituted them with actual eye drops. And I don't know the efficacy over time because those typically don't have preservatives in them. But for me, I've always had really good vision, even when I was a young kid. But like my wife has used them; they've improved her vision. So I don't know if I'm not a doctor, but it's worked, and I've seen other people say it's worked. So if someone can deliver like a way to manufacture those in a way that probably like has preservatives that's stable, that also is a for your eye, because I wouldn't want to use like backwater and shoot backwater in my eyes, But I've seen that work in people, and people have reported me that works pretty well too.
Actually, Thun's Metaphor is an eye drop to from school available eye drop. We get them all the time as an eye drop, and it actually works really. It helps a lot for vision. So the PRP eye drops. So just using your own platelets and making eye drops out can be actually really helpful for vision. As far as the mitochondrial peptides, humanin has some really good evidence on helping eyes in macular degeneration. So we've seen really actually good success with stabilizing macular degeneration using humanin. It may be the better peptide over SS31 for helping neurologic stuff like eyes.
Exactly. And I'll just give you guys like one bonus. One of our good friends up here, Dr. Dominic Mishwitz, he's like the world's leading dentistry or bioidentical, or as he likes to say, biological dentists. We're actually working together right now. The next big wave for peptide bioregulators is going to be mouth rinses, right? So we're going to actually come out with stuff that will eliminate calculus, tartar, plaque. Again, BPC, TD500, even like some thymosin beta that are actually, Mike is working on making a longer acting one. So, I mean, again, if we understand like the root cause of caries and tooth decay, like we can actually overcome this with BPC, with TB500, with the different thymosin beta, with a binder that can be used as a mouthwash or as a toothpaste, as a an actual oral rinse. So there's a lot of amazing stuff coming. So thank you, all of you, for being here today. I thought this was literally an amazing panel. You got some incredible, great information. We appreciate you guys being here.
We have a lot of views that come into our channel, and what we don't see is as many people subscribing. It would really help. It doesn't cost you anything. That being said, let's get on with some of our content.